Manchester United get the better of Brentford thanks to a late brace from Scott McTominay. It was the same old story for some of our key players as they underperformed, while Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans hardly put a foot wrong in defence. Questions remain such as, can United finally get their season back on track? Why aren't the players performing for Eric Ten Hag? And their biggest fears for the international break. That and more on Strettycast. Matt, your first Strettycast in a while. I'm also joined by Brian, who we'll get to shortly. You're not in Asda this time. How are you?
All right, mate. Yeah, how are you?
Not too bad. You're coming onto a podcast after a win, so in recent weeks it's been fairly grim, but I think you're coming on at a good time.
It's due as well, isn't it, mate? Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Brian, you're coming to us from, how do I describe this situation?
Scott McTominay scored 2 injury time and I've ended up in hospital since. So I put 2 and 2 together. I ripped the cock off myself after watching it. I'm in for some repairs.
Tore the stomach off yourself.
Myself.
I hope you get well soon. It's been documented a bit on Twitter. We're looking at it from a positive aspect, having a laugh at the situation, but I hope you get well soon. Matt, United secured 3 points at the weekend, 2 late goals from Scott McTominay, which Brian touched upon. Dramatic comeback, win in stoppage time. Do you think this result papers over cracks, or is it a stepping stone for a better run of form?
I think it probably does both, to be honest, doesn't it? Let's face it. I think we've not been very good this season at all, but you'd hope that 2 goals like that from a lad like McTominay is going to be the inspiration that they can use and take forward. You just don't know with this, although the comeback against Forest, you would have expected us to... Thanks, Brian.
Brian is doing everything he can to put off Matt here.
Just to butt in for a sec, I accidentally wanted to spray some deodorant on myself because I'm in a hospital bed.
Was that accidental that you've done that?
Covered the place in shaving foam. This is the most unprofessional podcast.
Only on the Strettycast.
You cannot accuse me of lowering the tone anymore.
A hospital room that is literally like the scene of a crime covered in shaving foam.
Proposition the nurse when she comes in. I'm ready for you now.
Oh my God.
It's fitting that this would happen while we're talking about potentially papering over the cracks. So yeah, Matt, you think it's a bit of both. Could be a stepping stone. We've been here before. But this United team, it's very much been the case of 1 step forward, 2 steps back for some time. And even before Ten Hag came in, how do we snap out of that? And can we, when, there's a real big injury crisis too, which can't go overlooked?
No, but we've got some favourable games coming up. Certainly after the international break, we're going to be going away to Sheffield United, which you'd have to hope and pray is going to be another win. So it suddenly turns into 2 wins out of 2. And then Copenhagen, the Champions League, is obviously an absolute must-win now because we're bottom of the group and really desperately need the points against the probably the most beatable team in the group. It's just then we have to take that into the derby the weekend after, and that is where we're going to have to use the inspiration.
Do you think that with the form we've seen this season, that it is just naive to think that, right, come back after the international break, we can pick things up when we have City coming to Old Trafford at the end of October? Just 2 weeks away.
Not really. We've such a plethora of injuries. We've gone through such an injury crisis at the start of the season. I don't think Ten Hag's had a fair shake really so far. I don't think it's reflective of what he's capable of as a manager. We've seen it last year, what he can do. I sounded way more positive than I have done for the last couple of episodes because obviously we've gone through a lot of stink. Trying to throw a positive light in it for a change. I think once we get a few players back again and we start taking again, like that late win, there's no way a late win like that doesn't inspire some of the confidence in the side. I know we were dog shit for 92 and a half minutes or whatever it was, but late wins like that, they're always fantastic. Get a couple of players back in the side again, come back after the international break, try rattling a bit of a win here or there, and then get City off to OT. Like, we're not that bad against City at home. Even in City's pomp, we don't ever play extremely bad at home. We've got quite a good record, I think. I always fancy us to turn up against them. I mean, if it was Liverpool, when Liverpool were at their absolute pomp, like the last time at that time they pumped us, now I'd be more afraid of playing them. But City, whatever it is about City, we just seem to have their number more often than not. I'm saying it now, they could probably absolutely pump us when they do, and I'll be there and walk out of the ground depressed, but maybe it's a commentator's curse, but I don't see him giving us a hiding for some reason. I don't know why. Again, that could, like every week we're saying about springboards for the season. If there's any springboard for the season, that's it. I mean, turn City over at Old Trafford and it's on.
We are one of those teams that give those shock results, especially we have done against City in the past under Ollie. United can provide a shock result. Do you think we can do that against City, given what you've seen?
Absolutely. I mean, City aren't infallible. That's the thing. Wolves showed that they weren't infallible, and Newcastle and Arsenal, they didn't play particularly well at all against Arsenal. They're not. The only problem is they'll have Rodri back for us, and obviously he's a big player for them, makes them tick. But there's no reason to say why we can't get another 2-1. You look at last season's result, we went through. Garnacho came on and was just unstoppable against them. They didn't know how to handle him. There's nothing saying that can't happen again. We're going to need to step up. We're going to need players like Rashford to appear finally. We're going to need Casemiro to be on it. Players back in the side. Obviously, our defence that isn't Victor Lindelof, just as standard because he's shite.
On Lindelof, because you touched on him, and I agreed this season, he's been absolutely awful. But we've seen at the end of last season when he came into the team, he went through a really good run of form. And you just look at the team and other players in it right now. He's not the only one underperforming. There's something has to give in these coming weeks where players that we're talking about are going to have to come out of the team. You mentioned Casemiro is one that's underperforming and Rashford being another one. But something has to give at some point. If these players continue performing, one or two of them will have to come out of the team, surely.
I think football fans, the fickle nature of football is obvious to everybody, but every one of us are guilty of it. And as a fan base overall, we're horrifically guilty of it. You've seen, go back to Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka was the worst right back in the planet for a while. Then he was reborn. Then he was the best right back in the planet. Then Dalot came back into form. And Dalot was the new Cafu. It goes around in circles. It's like Lindelof, like you said, last season, Lindelof came into the side. Oh, Lindelof is so much better than Maguire, and Lindelof he's really good, and his passing range is quality, and he's able to come out and find a pass from the defence. Now everyone's crying, oh, Harry Maguire has to be starting. It's ridiculous he's not starting. He has to be back in the side after 2 years of being absolutely torn to shreds. The old saying, form is temporary, class is permanent. Footballers at the levels of Lindelofs and Dalots and that, they are form players. They're not going to be a class permanent structure in the team. They're not like your world class players that are going to give you the same thing every week in and out. You use them to the best you can use them. And I mean, Ten Hag is using what he has at the moment. It's all he has. He hasn't got a whole pile of options. You can rotate into the likes of Lindelof. When Lindelof is on form, he's a decent defender. When he's playing well, he's a decent defender. When he's not playing very well, he's absolute dog stink. Similar to Maguire. Maguire is a very adept defender when he's on form. When he's off form, he's horrible. There's no middle ground with him. You don't get a 6 out of 10 performance out of him. You get 4s or 7s. So it's been disappointing to see Lindelof lately. He's been poor enough. But you didn't have an option, and then you've got Varane coming back into the side. But Varane's made out of shredded wheat, so Varane gives you another complete.
Well, Varane missed the game against Brentford. Have we any reason to have any faith in him staying fit?
Nah, not at all. Initially, when I saw the reports about Varane being linked with Saudi, my gut reaction, my instantaneous reaction was not a hope. Varane's too good. Oh, he's a Rolls Royce. No way. But then when you sat back for half an hour, you're like, he's missed 35 games, I think, so far since he's joined us through injury. It's shocking. You can't have a solid back four if one of your main defenders is always on the bench or always injured. He can be the best player in the world, but he's not rolling back to years like Ledley King. You can't manage him like a Ledley King of old, where he's got specific issues. And you deal with that, and you manage him around by playing one game a week, or you play him in certain games and stuff. You can't do that with Varane, because Varane could literally come out, warm up, and 3 minutes later, he's gone for 3 months. It's a nightmare. If you can't depend on a player, it's no good. He's the polar opposite of Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes offers you, his biggest attribute, he offers you availability every single time. Whether he's on form or not, he's there. You can have Varane come in and play world class for 3 games, he's missing for 10. Not worth a shit.
Going back to the game, Jensen opened the score in Brentford after 20 minutes, capitalising on multiple errors from United. We had Casemiro misplace a pass and commit himself with nothing tackle. Lindelof, sorry, attempted to clear the ball. And of course, yes, Onana with a blunder to top it all off. Why do you think we're all over the place at the back?
Well, it comes back to not having a settled back four, doesn't it, at the end of the day? It comes back to who we're having to play there. No Martinez at the minute. Again, he's normally quite reliable fitness-wise, so at least he's generally a constant senior player. You've obviously got Shaw, is similar to Varane. He just can't stay fit. Putting Dalot at right back, who is fucking shite and has been shite forever, apart from the odd purple patch here and there. We're dependent on Johnny Evans. Johnny Evans has been our best defender. He's only played 3 games for us, but he's been our best defender. Maguire's been... Well, he was all right against Brentford. The two of them played okay, but they weren't particularly troubled by anything. And Lindelof's he's a centre-back who can't head a ball. He nearly broke his own neck trying to win a header, didn't win the header, and he didn't even manage to break his own neck. He's fucking useless. It doesn't help, and it doesn't help having a new goalkeeper there. And I know De Gea had his issues, and he wasn't the most commanding of keepers, but they knew what he was going to be, so they knew what they were going to get out of him. You know he's not going to come for the crosses. So you have that in the back of your mind.
On the goal itself, because I noticed the aftermath, and obviously we've documented on previous episodes that Onana has made a number of blunders since coming to the club in the summer. But I just thought the reaction afterwards was quite telling, because a number of people focused in on obviously him making the mistake, but not so much that it came from a collective of errors. And in another game that happened over the weekend, Liverpool and Brighton's first goal was very, very similar. Liverpool giving the ball away in midfield sloppily and a goal from distance, which Allison should prevent, and the ball blunders in underneath him as well. You know, these happen. Now, that wasn't focused in on, like we've seen with Onana. I look at that goal, Matt, and I can't solely blame him for it.
I don't think it was that bad of a mistake from Onana. I think he should save it, but it's come, obviously, like you say, from a catalogue of errors, and it's come from behind whoever it was who stood in front of him. I think it was weak, but I don't think it's as bad as what's been being made out. The one against Bayern was obviously utterly horrendous, but I really don't see how that has gone down as it's gone down.
The reason he's getting so much shit for it, and the comparison to Allison, which is actually a good point. Allison has earned his stripes. Allison has put in the performances, and he's come off in performances, and if he makes a mistake, he makes a mistake. It's not something he does every single week, week in, week out. The difference with Onana is he's just arrived at the club, big money, big name, big reputation, coming in to be the new number one for Manchester United, and he's been fucking horrific. His errors before this have compounded in the fact that when he does make an error like that, which you could possibly get away with if you're playing well and you're pulling off saves left, right and centre and putting 7 and 8 out of 10 performances in, you'd get away with 1 or 2 here and there. Every keeper does. But when he's breakdancing on the floor when a fella's coming through 1-on-1 and he's getting chipped from fucking 10 yards out, you can't expect not to get a bit of stick for it. And it's justified. And you know what? It's right. Because at the end of the day, there's standards that have to be met. He's not meeting the standard by any means, shape or form. I mean, we're all going to give him time and back him and the usual gusto, but people are playing the comparison to De Gea, which, although it may be unfair to do, it's the only comparison we have for the last decade or so. Oh, De Gea came in and he wasn't great at the start and he was weak. De Gea was 20 years of age in a beanpole. This lad's 27. There's a total difference in career here and stage of career when he came in. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to town on Onana for life. I'm just stating what he's given us so far hasn't been good enough by any means. It's been laughable at times. And because of that, the mistakes that he makes will now be compounded even more and focused on even more, specifically because he plays for Man United. He's going to get absolutely battered for anything he does wrong. But I think once he finally finds his feet, the back four settles down a bit, he gets into a bit of form, mistakes will be forgiven more easily. But for now, I think he's under the spotlight where every little thing he does, because he's a new shiny toy at the back, the big money keeper, he's going to get focused on so much more.
No, I agree with all of that. I think as well, when he came in, we were all under the impression of what he would bring to the side in terms of distribution. And we all knew as well that would take time for the defence to get used to. I think if he was making mistakes playing out from the back, you could kind of excuse that he's just getting used to this defence. But some of the mistakes that I've seen that have been worrying have been the ones, it was against Galatasaray, where he just goes down way too easy. And there's been a number of blunders. You know, they're mistakes that I don't think you can really forgive. If it was the matter of playing out from the back and there was teething problems, you'd say, right, it's a matter of time. I think you nail it when you say that it's from errors before and the pressure is building, and that's just inevitable at Manchester United, and we have standards that have to be met. Roy Keane touched on something with this recently, and he said that we've stuck with goalkeepers in the past, and eventually they turned out that the mistakes they had made, they couldn't come back from it. Do you think Onana has shown that he has the confidence and courage to overcome it himself?
Oh, I think he's shown that, hasn't he? He's not been backwards in coming forwards. He's always out there talking to the press, and he's certainly got the right attitude about him. It just seems to all go to shit when he's actually out on the pitch. I don't think, obviously, the fella's obviously not doing it on purpose, but he just seems to be in a funk where anything he does at the minute is either a mistake or being seen as a mistake. And he made 2 smart saves at the end of the Brentford game. Let's not forget it. They weren't world class, but they were 2 smart stops. But he should have saved the goal. So that's all that's being focused on. I think if he can get himself a bit of a run of games, I think, like I said to you, De Gea saved that free kick from Mata, and that was the making of him after that. If he's going to come through it, he's going to need a moment. It's just whether he's ever going to get that moment. And I think we kind of dying on the hill with this now, because this is the way that Ten Hag wants to play. And there's not very many goalkeepers out there as renowned as him for being that good with his feet.
to be the devil's advocate, what's plan B if this goes to shit? Because, like you said, we put all our eggs in one basket. Ten Hag has gone gung-ho for this one particular keeper, this one particular style. If he does actually turn out to be a complete and utter bag of shit, are we doomed? Or is buying dear the answer? What's like, who we don't really know?
Well, you're playing devil's advocate, which is fine. And I don't want to make this comparison. I've seen it pop up, but it will be my answer. You look at what Guardiola did with Bravo. He came in, that was the goalkeeper he wanted. Manager decided 12 months later, shit, made a bit of a mistake here. I need to go and sign a top goalkeeper. Then you go back to United and how United are being run. Do we create an environment for a manager to do that? Because I think there's also an element of the pressure on the recruitment team. At United, every signing has to be almost bang on, or someone's going to cause problems with it. We have to kind of get away from that because there is a reality that you do make mistakes, and we've made plenty of them. But if United haven't made a mistake here and look back at it in 12 or 18 months, it's got to replace them.
And I'm absolutely 100% perfectly happy with that, because it's been one of our most criminal mistakes over the last decade or 10, 11, 12 years. Clinging on to players past their sell-by date. Recognise their sell-by date early. Act. This is what you got to do. Jadon Sancho has done it for us. I mean, I'm actually not totally disappointed that Sancho's been a complete wet blanket about this whole issue with Ten Hag, because he gets him out of the side, and I don't think he's good enough. I've been saying it for a long time. I didn't think he was good enough since he came in. He's made the decision for us, and he'll help us shift him out the door. Going to take a loss in it because of how it's happened. But why wait around just because you've paid money for a player and hope forever and a day it's going to work out? Case in point, Anthony Martial. If Onana's not good enough, we give him till the summer, shift him, move on, hold the hands up, we made a mistake, we buy a keeper and we go again. Rather than giving him 3 or 4 years and hoping it'll eventually come good and he'll be all right next season. If he's not going to work out, he's not going to work out. We're never going to catch up with who's ahead of us, and we're going to be in fucking limbo forever. So, and that's true of any player that comes in from now on. I would hope, amongst hope, that Ten Hag is ruthless enough and afforded that power by the club that he can literally say, okay, I signed you, I thought you were good enough, you haven't turned out to be, and didn't turn on to the club. He's going, we need someone else. Look back at it, fucking breaks my heart to mention Pep. When you look back at Pep Guardiola, when he needed a right back, he signed 4 of them. He got 1 that worked. Where's the other 3? Gone. He literally went out and goes, we need a right back. It's the position that's key to us at the moment. We need to fix this problem. He went and fucking fixed it, all right? He fixed it by buying 3 or 4 players. Made sure one of them worked out and shifted off the rest of them. That's ruthless. We'd go and buy a fella for 50 million and stick with him for 5 years. That's idiot. It's lunacy. It's terrible recruitment. It's terrible behaviour as a football club. If we ever want to catch City, and to a lesser extent Arsenal, we have to be ruthless. We have to start acting ruthlessly. And my biggest fear of that, of course, is it's not going to happen under the ownership that we have. So it always goes back to the same old thing, doesn't it? The fucking Glazers holding us back again. Yeah,
it's important as well, you're saying about sell by date. Onana currently has resale value. So if he's shit for 12 months, well, we might take a £5-10 million loss on him, but we'll get £35-40 million from into someone in Italy, you know what I mean, someone on the continent, and then you're using it again. Martial's a good example of that, of somebody who we bought for rising to £50 million. He turned up for his debut and then hasn't been seen since because he didn't get the shirt number he wanted, and now the resale value's gone. We can't even give him away. Sevilla had him on loan and sent him back straight away. Whoever they had, they went on loan somewhere else, and they just sent him back because they don't want, because he's shit. Bailey was exactly the same. We had to give him away because he's shit, because we left him to turn to shit at us. Fuck him off. Go and turn to shit at Galatasaray. Start doing that.
Except Andre Martial. I know it's international break and all the Nancy rubbish stories come out, but Martial seemingly has the hump and he wants more game time, wants to be the main man. I mean, this guy has 100% been on the spice in Piccadilly Gardens. There is no way he hasn't. I'll have to be imputed for so many years, undependable, moody, fucker doesn't know how to smile, and have the bare balls to come out and go, I want to be the number 1 man at United, after we've signed Rasmus Højlund, who's shown us more in a handful of games than Martial's not shown us in 5 years.
Do you remember when Eric Bailey did the same thing under Solskjaer?
Yeah.
Wanted more game time, so he played him, and in that game, injured himself.
This is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with eggheads. They're great players. They deserve to play every single game. Then they come on and they're absolute shit. Is it their mum and dad that's telling them how great they are? Oh, you're a great little boy and you are a lovely singer. Honestly, look, sing for your nana because you've got a great voice. You haven't. You're a scratchy cat. Stop singing. Get out.
You alluded a few minutes ago to how everything seems to go back to the Glazers. And boos rang around Old Trafford at half-time in that win over Brentford. Brentford winning 1-0 at the time. But do you think that was for the performance the fans had seen, or do you think there's more to it given the club's situation with the ownership and the lack of clarity from the Glazer family?
Dale, I think it's the build-up of frustration from multiple different facets. Now, I've clarified before, it's not for me booing the team off. It's just not something I really do. But can I understand why? Yeah, I can, of course. Of course I can. Played another 45 minutes of drab shit football, 1-0 down to Brentford. Everything's going to pot again. You're thinking to yourself, oh man, another week of listening to bullshit off rivals and talk sport going in on us again, and this player is the worst player in the world, and oh dear. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking the takeover hasn't happened. Sir Jim Ratcliffe's buying 5%. Sheikh Jassim is buying 5%. It's a culmination of 50,000 different factors coming out in one sound of boo at halftime. So it's a frustrated fan base, and I can understand why they're frustrated. I definitely think the Glazers is a massive part of it. But on the day, I would imagine it's what they were watching on the pitch and what we've seen already on the pitch for the last few games, just coming to rear its ugly head in the form of fan base getting pissed off with everything.
It's a combination of things. Like when I was at the last game again, Palace, the 1-0 defeat, you could feel it really around the ground that people are just fed up. And I know we lost that day and the performance again was pretty drab, but the mood around the ground is just a collection of things. You look at the leaks in the roof, the state of the place, and again, what we're seeing on the pitch. You know, I suppose it's telling as well that there was boos at half time when we were 1-0 down, and there wasn't boos to full time whistle when we came from behind the 1-2-1.
I was just going to say to you, imagine if we hadn't come back. So base half time's reaction without a comeback, without Superman Scott McTominay coming on, the best player that ever played football, scoring 2 goals out of nowhere. If that doesn't happen, can you imagine the level of boos and the frustration that would have been in the ground? And to be fair, rightfully so, because we were absolutely horrific. We were tragic to watch. It was another putrid performance. And if we walk away there getting beat 1-0, you can't argue with that. The result, we didn't deserve to win that game, I don't think, to be fair. We robbed it at the end of it. So I think it would have gone chaotically boo at the end of that game. Luckily, it did the complete polar opposite. Superman come off the bench and turned it all around, and everyone was buoyant and absolutely buzzing for a week or so after it, which is football, which is the best thing about it. It can turn on a fivepence, but we're never really that far away from we're back. This is the springboard. We're back. The season's on now, or we're the worst team in the world, as Dale is illustrating with his fantastic cup. Ball is best, so we're going to have to believe in that for a while. So it's just such a shit term, but it's a topsy-turvy season at the moment, because it is literally going from, is this the one that's going to turn the season around, to, oh, we're fucked. Oh, hang on, we're not. We're going to turn it around now, that's it. No, we're fucked. Is that the season we're going to have ahead of us, or is it just going to be up, down, up, down, up, down, or are we actually going to get a run of form and start getting a few wins on the board? I hope after this international break we can just start getting a bit of consistency back in the side, put a string of a couple of results together, and that's all we need. Like, I really think it's all we need. We just need to put a string of results together, get 4, 5, 6 half-decent results together, get the team playing a bit of confidence football again, and get back on track, because some of them look absolutely divided, absolutely fucked for confidence. Some of them are really, really low looking, like really, really down. Rashford looks like a shell. I know everyone's hating Rashford at the moment. I know. Boring. I know everyone wants to tear the shit out of him. They weren't tearing the shit out of him last season when he scored 30 odd goals and was fucking carrying the team on his back. Like, it's a short-term memory thing. Rashford might not be the best player in the entire world, but he saved our bollocks last season more often than not. And now we're a mere 10 games into the season, and now he's fucking Gabriel Obertan again. Give the kid a break, like, Jesus Christ. Let him have a bad patch. He's going to come good again. We've seen it. It's a cycle. But he looks like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. No wonder he does. 70,000 fellas inside the ground are calling him a useless cunt. I wouldn't fancy that at work every day. Do you know what I mean?
Imagine that every day at work.
You know what I mean? Like, it's bad enough I've got the lads at work be calling me a useless bastard, but if there was 70,000 of them doing it, that's going to wear on you. I mean, give the kid a break. Give him a chance to support the fella and try getting back on form again. Marcus Rashford is phenomenal, devastating on the left-hand side when he's on form. When he's off form, he's dog shit. Again, another player that's either top or bottom. But let's try getting back to that. We need him. There's no point slagging him off and you're getting nothing out of it. We need the fella on form. I mean, back the fella for a while. I don't get it. Like, I don't get why he's got such...
It's very counterproductive.
It's counterproductive, yeah. And I don't get why everyone's focused on him. Like, I mean, the fan base needs a new whipping boy every week. Maguire seems to be off the hook for a while. They've just focused all their energy on Rashford is the worst player ever. Rashford shouldn't be playing for United. He should have gone to PSG. He should have this. He should... Fuck off. He banged in 30 goals last season. Give me a fucking break. Like, He was electric. We had no striker. He stepped up to the plate off left midfield or left wing, whatever you want to call his position in this new modern fucking fancy football.
Inside forward.
So inside forward term, I can accept that one. But you know where I'm coming from? Like he was unbelievable last season. He's not having a great season now. No one is having a fucking great season at the moment. It's not like he's alone in the wilderness. Get him back on form. Find the right midfielder that's not going to fucking murder someone or kill someone's goldfish.
That might be tricky with our recruitment team.
Oh, yeah.
You dodged around the actual thing quite well there, Brian.
Yeah, I just
like he went down the goldfish route and not the actual route.
Yes, get rid of Martial in January if he wants to go. Brilliant. Bring in a striker. Bring in a second striker. Even again, I said it in the summer. Even if it's a Cavani-esque older striker, get a 6 months backup out of him or whatever you want to do to give Hoyland a break when we need it. Just if I ever see Wout Weghorst anywhere in Manchester again, not to mind at Old Trafford, I'll vomit. Just, you know, like people are forgetting too. There is an opportunity in January to do a little quick deal that can change a little dynamic in the team, like that, getting in a second striker if Martial leaves. So see how it goes. But like the season isn't dead and buried. Luckily, City and Arsenal haven't exactly ripped up Arsenal doing right, but City have been a little bit shit. The gap between the two of us isn't that big after these couple of games. So I mean, there's a little bit of light at the tunnel that we can rescue something from the season. It's early days at the moment. I'm absolutely, after flipping around on one of the last few podcasts, I'm like the voice of positivity here tonight. And we're going to go out the next game, get dick 2-0, and I'll be back to the evil man that I usually am.
The unfortunate thing we got about City is that after Christmas, they're going to win 18 games in a row.
Just canter it. Wankers.
Yeah, I like to try and ignore it, but we all fucking know it's going to happen. Like, it's just depressing. But you're right what you're saying about Rashford as well as the inverted winger. There's another one there for you, Brian. He's just very easy to get on the back up, but then I think Maguire might have taken a bullet for him with all of this interview he did on England where he's not happy with his play. He's not going to sit around and wait forever. Well, Harry, you didn't have to because West Ham bid for you and you didn't bother moving. So move to there if you want to play.
Exceptional. Was it exceptional the word he used with his record, or superlative like that about his win record in the side? First of all, I saw it and I thought it was a piss take. I thought it was a fluff piece. Then I read it actually wasn't a fluff piece. He actually did say it. Now, fair play to the lad. I don't want to see a fella sitting the bench. I'm not going to name any names as a centre half and collect a wage for 2 or 3 years. Don't do it, Dale, because I know you're going to say it and I don't want to slander him. He should have got a testimonial. But I don't want to see Maguire sitting there sulking, doing fuck all about it. I like the fact he wants to play. I like the fact he wants to get back in the side. I like certain aspects of Maguire. I still wish he fucked off in the summer, don't get me wrong. But I'm slightly amused by his exceptional win record in the side. It's over the course of like 9 games or something, or like 5 starts or something. It's not like the sample size isn't exactly massive, Harry. Relax.
Yeah, Darren Bent, of all people, I was listening to TalkSport on the way home, and he actually made a really good point that he doesn't think he's ever heard him come out and say, actually, lads, my form's not been too great. I need to improve. I don't think he's ever come out and said it. And I couldn't believe that it was him that identified this. But you sit there and you think, no, I don't think he's ever the issue to himself. I think he's similar to Sancho, who hasn't taken the hint from 4 different footballing clubs and bodies that have all said, Jayden, you're shit at training. But obviously he's the scapegoat because Ten Hag said a nasty word about him. Maguire's never once actually gone, maybe marking Luke Shaw wasn't my best moment. Maybe that did lead to the goal. No, it's Luke's fault. It can't be me. I'm exceptional. I've got a 54% win record. Thank you very much. She's a fucking pal cuckoo land.
And I'm now off to focus on 2 big games for England, and I'll see you after the break. How do you do?
We've got San Marino and Gibraltar, and I'm never going to let Gareth Southgate down.
Harry Maguire hat-trick against San Marino. You heard it here first.
Well, mate, we bought him on the back of a fucking goal against Panama, so anything's fucking possible in it. That is the only reason we paid £80 million for him. He scored against fucking Panama. He had a stupid nickname, and he had that picture with them 3 birds. And that is it. And that was apparently an £80 million fucking defender. And I got battered at the time for saying it. He's he's bang average.
We'll take it. You're not the biggest Harry Maguire fan, Matt.
Exceptionally not.
But look, sticking on that, my knowledge, both of you couldn't care less for international football. So I wanted to ask you, Matt, first. What worries you most when you see United players jetting off for international duty? And obviously, what most people would say with injuries. But is there anything else?
Not really. It's mainly the injuries, to be honest with you. I don't think there's anything in international football enough to worry anybody. You know what I mean? Like, they're not gonna get anything major happen to them. I suppose, you know, there's none of our players are going anywhere at the minute in the world that's particularly tumultuous, so they'll be all right there. It's more just the injuries. I mean, you look tonight for Scotland, and all right, it's funny for us because he plays for Liverpool, but Robertson's gone off with a broken arm or dislocated shoulder or something. I celebrated too, Brian. We're another one of them away from, I think, having to play one of us. I really do. I play tonight and I've got tits, but if I'm needed, I'm here.
Brian, anything else when it comes to international breaks that you worry about, apart from injuries?
My mental health, having to listen to people talk about international football. I can't. International football is like, it's the equivalent of getting AIDS. I hate it. I can't stand it. I have no interest in it whatsoever. I don't see the appeal to it. I can't understand how Man United fans spent years cheering on Steven Gerrard for England, for example, just as one sample point. It doesn't work for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm not strange, because I know there's loads of people the very same, but it has always been club over country for me, and that's might sound terribly unpatriotic, but I can't stand international football. It doesn't do it for me. Don't enjoy the level of it. It's not bad when it comes to like World Cup finals, from quarterfinals on ish, Euros from like semis on, semi-decent to watch. You're getting the better sides and the better players to watch. But like you said, England are going playing fucking San Marino and Doncaster or someone there for the next 2 games. Who the fuck wants to watch that? I mean, give me a break. Apart from Doncaster fans, because it's probably the best thing they get to see. International football to me is for fans of lower league clubs who've got fuck all happiness in their life and they want to have something nice to do. They can't go on Euro ways and they haven't got any decent side to watch, so they go and watch some actual footballers play actual football at a poor level.
Tottenham fans.
And Tottenham fans, because they're just weird. But the biggest problem in international football is the injuries. Yeah, we send off our lads and you spend a week or two praying that you don't lose any key players, or unless you're Matt and you hope that Harry Maguire gets injured, because he's a bit evil about that. But other than that, that's the problem. It's the concerning side of international football breaks during the season, is losing key players to a stupid challenge.
Reading a piece recently, and they collected data from players with the most minutes last year. Bruno Fernandes clocked up something like over 6,000 minutes. He was at the top of the list. And that's what I was worried about going into this international break, because his form hasn't been good this season. Played so much football, and he kind of knows well with Portugal that he plays the whole time anyway. Apparently he's one of those players that doesn't want to be sat on the bench, and that's all well and good, but just one of my concerns would be with burnout with players, and with the authorities, UEFA, FIFA and so on. All they seem interested in doing right now is adding more fixtures to the schedule every year, all for the sake of money. And we're going to get players that are going to be burnt out as a result.
One of my favourite people in the world, Virgil van Dijk, said something about that earlier on today. I saw him come out and say that players in England play a phenomenal amount of games and it's expected to be more and more and more. And do you know what? As much as I think he's a cock, he's right. They're burning out players for something's sake. The schedule is stacked. It's coming to the stage where if FIFA or UEFA or whoever makes these decisions gets their ways, there'll be games played in Dubai and Qatar and Abu Dhabi in America, and there'll be one-off fucking spectacle games here and there, and players are going to be dead in their feet. It only serves to reduce the quality we're going to see, because players won't be able to perform to their best. Their fitness levels are going to have to be so high that when they break down, they're going to break down badly and they'll be out for months. They probably do need to take a bit of a look at themselves and relax on all these extra games they want to try adding in. I mean, what's the new format for the Champions League coming? That where we're playing like, no, don't get me wrong, happy for a couple of extra Euro aways, but have we got like 8 games?
I think it's 8 games. There's 4 more teams added, I believe.
6 before Christmas, 2 after Christmas. Top 8 go through, skip around. The 24 teams after that play a knockout round and then go and join up with the top 8.
Who was the bright spark who decided we're already fucked for any rearranged fixture? If a game is missed, you're trying to squeeze it in anywhere you possibly can before the end of the season. I know what we'll do. We'll stick in 4 trips across Europe extra. That'll fix it.
It gets better, because if you win it or get in the final, and I think maybe on legacy points, you then get invited to the new 32-team Club World Cup that I'm not sure if that's every year or every 4 years, maybe.
Rewind a second. What the fuck is the legacy point?
Well, like us, because we done good some years ago, they might say, do you want to be in our club? And we might say yes. Because it's all money driven, isn't it, at the end of the day? This is why they're up in the World Cup, and this is why they're up in the Euros.
It's the new Super League.
Yeah.
Hang on. Let me try and compute this. We've legacy fans phrase or stage after the ESL. You had people claiming to be legacy fans, which fits a certain demographic. Now we've got legacy points to the team. Seen a trend here.
Don't quote me on legacy points.
Oh, sorry, not legacy. What are they?
Don't. I think that's how it's working, but don't quote me on it.
Well, either way, let's call them legacy points for the sake of conversation. So we get through to the Champions League. At the moment, we're not going to probably be in Europe next season because we're fucking terrible. But either way, we do get through to this new funky Champions League setup. We play well. All our players drop dead by Christmas because they played 55 games. We call in the reserves, who are then shipped off to the World Club Cup on legacy points to play another 32 teams. When's it going to stop, Jeff?
This all came, by the way, from what I was saying about Bruno Fernandes in the current state of things.
But he's the only player in the world football to be able to do this because he's the bionic man who is never ever injured and never ever unable to play. Most players won't be capable of doing this. This is actually a topic for a whole other podcast, obviously. We can go off on a tangent, but imagine the size of squad you're going to need to compete. I mean, it's going to be ridiculous. We've got a half-decent sized squad as it is, and we struggle with the current setup. You throw in all these extra games, I mean, Jesus Christ almighty. I love football. I don't want to watch it every day of the week.
Probably it's more money driven. This is the problem. They want the money. The players want the money. And so and the clubs want the money. The unfortunate thing is that then negates any argument we've got for player welfare or anything, because they go, well, if you want the broadcast deals, then you've got to play the games. And this is the issue that we have, is that they think that what we want to do is watch football every second of every day. I like it, but I probably would get bored of it eventually. It's just not going to happen. The other thing is the Fernandes thing is quite nice because he's played 6,666 minutes, because I heard that the other day as well. I just had to say it. It's my fact of the day.
I can't see that Champions League format lasting, if I'm honest. I can see it being attempted, but I can see a big fight back after the first effort at it. I can't see clubs liking that. I can't see them going for it. That doesn't have longevity in it for me. It's not suitable.
It's like the 2 group stages they did back in the day, isn't it? Because they did a group stage and you went through to another one and then knockouts. It's just, they're going to try these things, but yeah.
We'll spend an episode explaining that when we know more, because the way I've seen it in the past few weeks and or months even, there's been kind of updates, kind of drip fed about how they're going to do it. Has it all been confirmed yet, Matt, or is it still kind of the same kind of early stages? It's all confirmed.
Yeah, it's all confirmed. It's not.
Yeah, we'll look into it, and we'll do an episode soon explaining exactly how it's going to work and our thoughts on it. Because I think you're right, Brian. We could spend the entire night on it. You want to say something else? Go for it.
On that episode I will be the person giving the side of bring the Champions League back to only the winners. That's how football should be. Winners only. Bring it back. But only when we're good again. Continue.
We also have a roundup of questions, which we get to every week. We always appreciate time you put into these questions. Dave, you've submitted 2. We touched on one already, obviously the Harry Maguire stuff and his comments about sitting on the bench and playing once a month. Matt's already given his thoughts on one Harry Maguire. But Matt, second question from Dave. What are your thoughts on Lindelof and Wan-Bissaka getting a new deal?
Victor Lindelof needs to go in the bin. He can't head a football. I just can't have a defender who can't head. He's so bad. And someone I was talking to the other day was saying that he pointed out a while ago that perhaps, as bad as Maguire is, perhaps Lindelof has been the issue. Look how bad the defenders have been with him this season. Perhaps Lindelof was making Maguire look, apart from him being utterly awful, making him look even worse than that, because he is constantly pushing out position. Constantly. Where was it? Was it against... who did we play before? Brentford. Whoever that was. Galatasaray. 2 of the goals were his fault. One of them, I don't even think Wilfried Zaha put any pressure on him. My 2-year-old could have outmuscled him because he's so weak. And then the other goal, the one that because Amrabat gave the ball away, which, okay, that's Amrabat's fault for giving the ball away. But there's no line because Lindelof is 20 yards in front of him. Mark is their centre-back. Oh, he's so bad. But Wan-Bissaka, I'm a Wan-Bissaka fan. I backed that horse. And I'm glad I backed that horse. He's always been the best right back in the world, but he's confirmed as it now.
You can't expect Victor Lindelof, a guy who wears a dress or leather chaps and a leather waistcoat, not to be bullied off of football. I mean, the evidence is here for everybody.
Don't forget about the kids behind him in his leather chaps.
Hey, would Beckham pull it off?
Beckham pulls anything off, mate. It's David Beckham. I'd let him pull me off.
Bruce or Nemanja Vidic walking around in a fucking dress.
No, you certainly wouldn't. No, this is the thing. I shared it on my Instagram today of him dressed. I think it was a Vogue shoot. I was thinking to myself, you see your centre back, this kind of malarkey, you're never going to be scared of him, are you? You want to be scared of your centre back.
Hey, Calvert-Lewin would love it.
Fair point. Literally, the only thing Lindelof has bought us is his fit wife. That is the only thing he's been good for. That is it.
I can't wait for us to play Everton. See Calvert-Lewin and Lindelof holding hands, doing a little dance in the fucking 6-yard box.
Literally giving it handbags.
Bags, yeah. Wearing 2 little fucking Under Armour man bags walking.
It's a satchel, Brian. Your thoughts on Wan-Bissaka and Lindelof getting new deals?
Thought of it makes me sick, but the idea of it, I'm assuming it's for transfer value. It's the only logic I can see behind it. Rather than letting them go for nothing whenever the deal is done, stick an extra year in it and get a few quid for it. I'm not against that transfer business.
Sorry to interrupt, but what we were saying earlier on, keeping players for too long, don't we need to cut this cycle of giving players contracts? Like, for instance, we're talking about Lindelof right now and his form, which has been really questionable since the start of the season. Who in the right mind sits down with a player and in that phase of form right now and says, we're thinking of giving you a new contract? When it comes to Wan-Bissaka, I think it's totally warranted, given his form before his injury.
I don't think it's actually, sorry, Brad, I don't think it's actually giving him a new deal, though, is it? It's just triggering that extra year.
Again, back to my original point, I don't think it's form. I think they're triggering that extra year extension to allow themselves to try to recoup a fee when they go. I'm still on the side of being ruthless, shipping them off, but try to get a few quid from them.
Then you're just hoping with the likes of Lindelof, which it shouldn't be the case really, but you're just hoping you don't go into the same situation as Eric Bailly and just a matter of paying his wages till his contract expires.
I hope it's transfer related because it's not form related. Obviously, Wan-Bissaka is a different kettle of fish. He's coming back.
Matt, we have a question from Federico. Are you lads still confident we'll qualify for the Champions League knockouts?
Why the fuck not? That's all I've got. It's all I've got. We should beat Copenhagen, but then we should have beat Galatasaray. And then we should beat Galatasaray this time. We'll beat Brighton. 3-0.
Agree, Brian?
Why the fuck not?
Why not?
I'm gonna change the question. Are we gonna win the Champions League?
Yes.
Originally, when I saw the group laid out and when I saw the fixtures, aside from looking at which lovely cities we can go visit for the Euro aways and looking at the way the group shaped up, I was a bit disappointed that the Bayern home game was the last game because naively I thought, oh, that's a shame. That's going to be a dead rubber now. It won't be as exciting. Is it fuck? It was gone from being a dead rubber to hoping, amongst hope, we can beat Copenhagen, hoping we can go to fucking Galatasaray away and get a result, and hoping that when we do eventually play Bayern at home, that a draw gets us through to the next round of the Champions League stage. Matt is visually beckoning me away that I'm absolutely lunatic, which I know, I understand. But that's the hope I have. So blind, optimistic, naive child inside me is now going, the Bayern game is going to be absolutely massive. This is the night everyone wants to be at Old Trafford. It's like one of those games of old where this is a swashbuckling United side turn up on a cold night in Old Trafford and nick a 1-0 win or nick a draw at the end, and we get through to the next stage. Fantastic. The likelihood is we're already out before they come. It is a fucking dead rubber and everyone shifts off their tickets because no one can be arsed.
Just a slap of reality there.
No, we're going to win it. Fuck it. We're going to do it. We're going to beat Copenhagen twice, and then we'll do Bayern. It'll be 3-0. Dalot will score. And Maguire will get the other two. And then...
What's Onana going to do?
Fucking everything. It's safe. And then he's going to get the assist for the Maguire goals. Maguire going to make a run. And he's just going to bing. Maybe like Van Persie's volley against Villa. Sorted, lads.
Bring Matt on, and we're in absolute dreamland talking about winning the Champions League. Started a podcast, we were talking about being absolutely crap for 90 minutes and then pulling it out of the bag in stoppage time. But now we're going to win the European Cup. Another question in, Brian, one for you, Mark Whelan. I watched the Beckham documentary over the weekend with the wife and kids. I felt really proud reminiscing about how we stood by our players back then. Do you think we've lost a bit of that since?
I watched the David Beckham documentary last weekend on my own in a room because I couldn't do it in front of anybody else because it's the equivalent of porn. It was one of the best things I've watched in ages. David Beckham was and always will be my favourite Man United player. What we did as a fan base, putting our collective arm around him when Glenn Hoddle, this shithouse, tore him alive. The English fan base tore him to shreds. Effigies being burnt of him over a silly mistake, kicking out at a shithouse Diego Simeone, who played it very well, to be fair. Even he comes across well in the documentary. He smirks and holds his hands up. He's like, yeah, I fucked him over. You can't but respect it. It's a lovely reminder of what United used to be about. Fella down in his luck. I mean, imagine if social media was around as prevalent as it was back then. There's no way Beckham gets through that. I mean, what he went through was fucking horrific. Absolutely diabolical. And even me watching it back, having lived through that era and being old enough to remember that era, I didn't even remember how bad it was. It was shocking. I loved how it portrayed how he felt about United singing, the boys singing his name from the sideline, how that gripped him, and he felt like that hug from the crowd that everything's going to be all right. United have my...
Just quickly on that, with the United fans singing his name that season after 98, I don't think the documentary really portrayed it as well as they could have, and I don't know if they had rights to the Premier League, but United fans did that from the very, very start of the season. The 2-2 draw against Leicester, in which Beckham scored in. It's a shame they didn't really capture that.
Yeah, and like you said, maybe they didn't have access to the clips or whatever, but like, he came to United and Fergie pretty much put him into a bubble, like a safe space. Come back here, we'll protect you, we've got your back. Got torn apart at every away ground. Away fans destroyed him every chance they got, but so I loved like, Roy Keane. They wanted to kick him. Well, we've got a couple of fellas that'll fucking kick you too. That's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic to listen to. Smirky smiles from the likes of Eric Cantona, looking back on it. It was one of the best things I've seen in a long time because so much negative shit comes out about United all the time, every single week. To watch something going back to an era of where it displays negativity so strongly, but it also shows the other side of football and the other side of Man United, where we can overcome adversity, we can help one of our own. One of our own's down in his luck, we'll throw an arm around him, we'll get him through it. It was class. It was absolutely fantastic to watch. I don't think anything related to that type of atmosphere or attitude exists at the club anymore. I think that's gone so long. I don't think we protect our own as collectively fans and club together. It probably goes back, to be fair, to Ferguson. I mean, what he created will never be done again, in my opinion. I mean, Pep can win the treble, but they don't have what we had. They don't have that. They don't have that us against the world mentality. And he created something special. He created something you can't bottle it. You can't buy it. It's just, it took a long time to do it, and a very special man to achieve it. I don't think we'll ever see anything like it again, but it must have been phenomenal for David Beckham and for his parents and his wife and everyone else to see the care that he got from that club at a time when his child was being threatened with kidnap, and fucking he'd have security on the house, and like
bullets in the post.
Like, Jesus, like I'm a parent. I can't imagine if someone said something in any way negative about my child, I'd flip. But to be going through that level of horror and still go out and be one of the best players in the world.
Just important to know too that his friends do say when he, after 98, when all this was happening and he was being spat at on the streets, that he never once retaliated or he never once, snapped. He just kind of took it on the chin. I think what was remarkable in kind of a sinister way, because we speak a lot about mental health nowadays and how we manage it. Beckham, maybe it was old-fashioned of him, but he really just got on with it. Because when he took to the pitch, Neville commented on it, how it didn't matter what was happening in the days before. He could be having a tiff with Victoria, or it could have been anything, and it could have been really playing in his mind. But Neville was never under the impression that when he went out on the pitch, he always knew Beckham was going to perform.
Funny thing about that, Dale, just before you move on, when Neville was saying that, and when I was watching it, I didn't expect that to be the final point on what he was saying. He was building it up about how everything off the pitch was chaotic. He's on the phone to Victoria. He's fucking driving 4 hours to see her for 5 minutes. He was basically detailing all the really complicated stuff that was happening off the pitch. And I thought he was going to then go on and go. And then it showed on the field, like you knew by him, his head I wasn't in it and he wasn't good enough and he had a dodgy game here and there. But next thing he turned around, he was like, he stepped on the pitch, boom, flick of a switch, pulled off miracles. And that was what David Beckham was about. And it's testament to the guy that he was able to do that. I mean, the strength, mental strength it must have taken to be able to shut out everything you've just done for the last hour or so and all of a sudden step on a football field and become phenomenal. I don't think he gets the thought as he deserves.
With the documentary, I think that they're kind of pandering to an audience, aren't they? You know, it's not aimed at a football audience. It's aimed at the Hollywood kind of audience and the casual watcher. If you knit together Class of 92 and that, I think you get a broader outlook of actually what it was like for him, because I kind of picked up on a couple of bits. He says for the corners in 99 in the Class of 92 that Peter Schmeichel was his inspiration for putting the balls in, whereas in the documentary he says it was his dad making him practice all the time. Well, you've got the sentimental father for everybody, and then for us football fans, you've got the bollocking from the goalkeeper. So I think the truth is somewhere in the middle of the two of them. I'm not to say he's lying in either of them. I just think one's maybe slightly more embellished than the other. And I think as far as the culture of backing players goes, I think the problem now is a lot of the players who need backing are fucking the club over. You look at Pogba, Lingard, Martial, Maguire now, who's coming out and saying things, you know, Dean Henderson. I think the only one that you could maybe argue wasn't out to fuck the club over was De Gea, who maybe needs a bit of backing. And maybe now with sort of Onana, I think people are getting behind him a lot more. There's concerns when you're talking to United mates. But I think certainly in the public eye, I would back him a lot more than I'd not do. And people like Martinez, Anthony, maybe here and there. So I think we can get back to close to what Sir Alex had. But Brian is right that I don't think we'll ever see anything quite like that ever again.
I don't know. We won't see the environment which Ferguson created. I think it was the second episode that was really shown well. It comes down to as well just the amount of respect all of these people had for the manager, which I don't think exists really at any club nowadays. I think you could look at a number of elements of modern football, specifically player power, which personally I think just makes it impossible. It makes it really impossible because you look at any manager nowadays and if he speaks in a certain way to a player that upsets him, that player finds it very, very easy to get his story out there and has no problem doing so. It's a matter of picking up their phone, speaking to their agent or speaking to a journalist that they're friendly with. And they're the effects of player power. I think it's ugly. I don't know how managers deal with it, but I don't know how. I'm 100% sure Ferguson would have been able to deal with it in the modern game because he was the one that was able to do it time and time again. But I don't know how they do it, or how they can be done.
I think not even Klopp and Guardiola are safe from it. You know what I mean? João Cancelo, prime example of somebody who spoke out against Guardiola, and the solution now is just to sell him, basically, and hope that you've got the resale value.
Does that go back to, what we were saying earlier on about the manager having that kind of power at a club? We know Guardiola has it at City, where if he's unhappy with a player, he knows he has the power just to get rid of him and to get a new player in. And then it goes back to Manchester United, where we've got the Glazers totally hampering everything we do. Senior sources have said for years that decisions are extremely delayed. So when a manager says he wants a player out and you've got decisions being constantly delayed, you can see where the complications come into it.
Definitely. I think what also helps, Guardiola is the best example at the minute, unfortunately, but you've got a winning squad. So if you've got Cancelo in there who's not happy and is causing ructions, it's not a difficult thing to say, look, I need him to go. I need him sold now, whether it's a loan to buy like they did with the clause or whatever. he's got to go because he's going to derail everything. I think that also helps. I think, unfortunately, we don't have that United. You've got people who, it's reported that there are players unhappy and on Team Sancho, if you want. So it makes it difficult because you sell Sancho and you've got 3 players unhappy on top of that. So what do? Do you sell those 3 players, and then those 3 players are going to have mates? Do you sell them? You end up with no squad. Even down, they're going to have youth players who look up to these players who will then be upset that they've been so. It's the player power argument is very, very valid in all of this, I think, and it's got to a point where it's becoming almost unmanageable for them. Ten Hag, I don't think he's even been that bad. And you look when we were losing games, if you look at his press conferences, and he was getting pelters for saying, oh, well, actually, I saw some positives and maybe it wasn't as bad as we think. And then you look after Brentford and he came out, and I'm kind of paraphrasing a bit, and sort of went in on them for the recent form and said, we've not been playing well enough. We've not been winning games that we should have done. We haven't. We've only had short spells. And if he comes out after the defeats and says what he should say, which is, we were fucking appalling today. We were terrible. It's just that morale's just going to crash through the floor. And it's unmanageable for them because he has to lie, basically. And everyone knows he's lying. And then, like you said before, it's another week of TalkSport going on and him saying, well, this dickhead's saying that United played quite well, actually, for 10 minutes. Well, Gabby Agbon, the whole finds issue with that. And it's a nightmare. It is for him. I don't envy them whatsoever.
Absolutely not. Matt, absolute pleasure to have you back on the Stretty cast. And since you didn't do a run down an island as that, we'll definitely have you back on soon.
Well, we've got to give the public what they want, haven't they? The messages I've had, Dale.
A man of the people.
Yeah, there's been at least... Well, my mum was annoyed with you. I'll tell you
all
that
right.
much.
Oh, fine.
She wasn't. I was lying down. No one cared.
Right. Well, other people do care. So please continue your support with questions and feedback for the podcast, and obviously give us a nice rating if you're feeling generous. Next episode will be next week before United return to face Sheffield United, and we'll have a show as well before the game against Copenhagen. Matt, thanks again for joining me, and we'll speak to you all again next week.
Absolutely. Cheers, mate.